A few weeks ago, I made a cake for the channel to celebrate my 1,000 subscriber mark. And this was a massive 3-tiered Victoria sponge cake. So it was a lot to eat on my own. So at the time I thought, what would be a good idea is if I bring it into work, because then everyone at work can eat the cake. But the problem is this cake in particular was coloured with the colours of the ace flag. So by bringing the cake into work, I kind of came out to my whole workplace. So yes, now everyone at my work knows that I'm asexual because of a cake. I don't think you can get any more ace than that. So, quite often at my workplace, people were bringing cakes, and normally that would be for their birthday. But since I had this extra cake that I'd made and I didn't want to eat it all myself, I brought the majority of it into work. And then, because it was the colours of the ace flag, a lot of people commented that it was a strangely coloured cake. Which, to be honest, I expected, because you don't normally see cakes which are purple, whitish and grey. So when they said this, I was like, yes, it is. And the first couple of times I didn't really say anything past that. But I had enough people mention it that I thought, maybe I should do a catch-all and send an email to everyone in the office telling them that I'm asexual. Because that's a good idea, right? No, it's not. It's really not. But I did that. I definitely did that. I sent an email saying, a lot of people have asked about the colour of the cake, and the reason it's the colour that it is because it's supposed to look like the ace flag, which is this. And I attached a picture of the asexual flag. I mean, I try to be a good advocate for representation and education about the ace and arrow communities where I can be. But this was not something I would have normally done. It was funny because originally I had just said that it was a cake that I had made for an LGBT plus event that hadn't all been eaten. And so I had a couple of people, come up to me about that. And one person in particular was really funny. He came up to me, like, quite close. And he looked around. And I was thinking, okay, this is a bit weird. Why is he looking around? And then he whispered to me, "Are you gay?" And it was honestly the most hilarious thing I had heard in a while. The way he said it, it was like I was some sort of, I don't know, magnificent alien thing that he'd never seen before, and he couldn't believe that I could possibly be gay. And I didn't really know what to say, so I didn't want to explain my whole orientation at that point. So I just said, yeah, kind of. But yeah, and then afterwards, after a few more people had asked about the colour, I said, oh yeah, this is what the colour is, it's the ace flag. So now everyone in my workplace at least knows what the asexual flag looks like, which is a good thing. I assume they all assume that I'm also asexual, But the thing is, no one really commented on it. More people commented on the cake itself, which I was glad by. And maybe they read it and thought, oh, that's fine, I'm not gonna press him on it, which is fair. A lot of people would mind being asked explicitly about it. And obviously I don't talk that much, so maybe they thought I was one of those people, I'm not sure. But there was one person who asked me, oh, what's the asexual flag? And I thought, that's a weird question. And generally when someone asks me a question, I don't think about it enough to kind of analyse what the question they meant to ask was. But I answered the question that was asked. So because they asked, what is the asexual flag? I said, it's a flag for asexuality. I don't think that's what he meant, Daniel. I think he was asking what's asexuality. And you could have answered, and you didn't. To be honest, that whole workday was very stressful, as you might be able to understand. He was actually being quite nice, and I think he was trying to relate. But he was like, oh yeah, I've got a friend who's trans. And I was like, okay. Not quite the same thing. And we did briefly talk about asexuality in the end, but not at length, which is good. I don't want to make people feel like they should talk about asexuality at length. Maybe I should have had a link to something in the email. I didn't really think about it because it was kind of a spur of the moment thing, but yes. That's just a little story I want to tell you about how a few weeks ago I came out to my whole office with a cake. Yeah, if you have any comments about that, if you've done a similar thing or any other questionable ideas about coming out, then do let me know. If you have funny stories, let me know. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. I post videos every other Saturday, so if you want to see more, then feel free to subscribe. That is all I had to say today. Have a wonderful day, and I shall see you next time. And someone interrupted my outro. And it was my boyfriend. How dare he? Silence my phone. Now comes the silence. Silence.